Welcome back. And on this Independence Day, there's a lot for us to talk about. A lot of people are in a certain amount of denial of how much stress they've been under over the past 1 year or even probably beyond that. And today we're going to be talking about stress management, or at least a particular strategy of stress management. We have with us Oluwakemi Jeje. She is a visionary entrepreneur, passionate wellness expert, and dedicated social change maker. She's transitioned from a successful corporate career to found Whole Eats Africa. It's a wellness food formulation organization bridging a well-being gap with whole food solutions. And as the founder, she's developed and launched innovative whole food solutions for wellness. Today, however, we're talking about journaling as a strategy for stress management. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's great to have you
here.
Happy Independence Day.
Yes, happy Independence Day, Nigerians.
So the whole idea for me right now is for us to be independent of stress.
Oh, yes, please. By all means.
Let's find a way to crawl out of that hole that stress has caused for us. But you said we should focus on journaling.
Yeah.
Why exactly are we focusing on journaling? Talk to us.
Okay, so we can't completely crawl out of it. As long as we live on Earth, we're going to have triggers, we're going to have stressors.
Okay.
And we've got to be able to master how to manage it. We're going to come in contact experiences daily that stress us out.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are different varieties of tools that you can use to manage stress, keep it, especially anxiety.
Okay.
And this is very important because wherever you are in your wellness journey, you might feel completely well, but stress can become a trigger for disease, right? Chronic illnesses like high blood pressure, consistent, sustained stress can become a trigger for that. And then it can become a deterrent for recovery from disease.
Okay.
So this is why it's important that we pay attention to it. And for me, I find that there are a lot of things that have become common now, exercise, journaling, but there's certain times when it hits you at a point where you can't immediately start exercising.
Sure.
You can't immediately start breathing, but you can just take a paper, take a biro, and start to digest that emotion that is stressing you out. And that's why stress is very important. Secondly, you can integrate this into your everyday program. I have a time at the end of every day where I'm deliberate to digest. I mean, it's like you keep eating and you keep eating, you're not digesting. That's what happens to some of us. You've got terrible experiences today, stressful experiences, but you haven't digested it. And they say problem shared is absorbed. It's not always the case. Sometimes you don't even have the right people to listen to you, but you can always just, you know what?
Okay,
dump that.
So now, it does feel like should I call it a Western thing to do? The average Nigerian has, their God they pray to, that they meditate to, right? They have, maybe they like to, scream, shout. They probably have something they turn to. It could be coffee, alcoholic beverages. They have something else they turn to.
That helps,
Culturally, sometimes they lean towards that instead of writing things down. It does feel like you are more diagnosed as having something wrong with you when you start writing things down that seem alarming. So, okay, today my boss did this and that and this and that. Like, it's not a Nigerian thing to do. So you need to break down why I should actually try this out. I'm trying to find my why on this now. Talk to me.
Okay. So you're right, it's not Nigerian. It actually feels like you're either keeping records of evil.
Exactly.
I mean, imagine someone stumble onto your journal and find their names there.
Exactly.
They did this. But no, like I said earlier, I had an experience sometime last year.
Okay.
And I got into traffic offense, and it was a dual carriage road, and you didn't know at what point it stopped. So I wasn't used to this particular enforcement agent, and they got my car, took it. But at the end of the day, by the time I went online and found out that these guys are not even regular.
Yeah.
You couldn't even get your car out. I mean, it can even get sold. Wow. I was frozen. So usually I would pray. But I was so stressed and scared, I couldn't even pray. I couldn't do a thing. So I did my dear God.
Okay, you wrote
I
it down.
cannot pray tonight.
Wow.
This is what has happened. This is what I've done. This is where I am. I cannot deal. I'm just going to go and sleep and hope that tomorrow morning when I wake up,
Yeah.
I know what to do.
Okay.
You know, that helped me to dump a huge part of that anxiety and be able to sleep. Otherwise, because I felt like, oh, I dumped it on God. Even if who you're writing, there are times that, if for Christians, as for instance, times that you feel like, oh, I can't pray. Well, you can't write Dear God.
Okay.
So I do a lot of Dear God journaling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than, and sometimes it's even Thanksgiving. Sometimes it's, I want to be able to do this. I can't do it. Right? But it could be Dear God if it makes you feel like, oh, it's odd. Yeah. But the important thing is that you're digesting emotions. You're
identifying it. You're pinpointing what is going on. So I do feel like a lot of people are in denial of the anxiety and the stress they're under. I can still remember a particular lady who came from outside the country, a foreigner, and she got into, went into the, into traffic normally, and then I think it was a keke that slammed into her, and her car wasn't damaged. But the shock of it, by the time she got into the conference she was coming for, she said this was the most stressful thing she had ever been through. And I'm like, Keke, scratch your car. And this is the most stressful thing. She was like, that she's actually going to call her therapist about it. Because she was able to identify that she had been through something that had...
Unusual.
But for us,
we just
keep going.
Yeah, stuff it down.
But what is happening when we're stuffing these things down?
We're keeping our system acidic.
Wow.
Because nothing gets your system acidic faster. I mean, we're all getting educated about food right now. Yeah. But your emotions will bypass digestion and pass those hormones straight into your blood. And straight in an instant, you've gone from whatever you've had this morning, cucumbers, whatever you've done, from alkaline to acidic, straight in an instant.
Wow.
And then
this is actually a chemical reaction. This is not...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are your hormones.
Wow.
Right? And as you begin to master it, the body begins to build itself to survive rather than to thrive.
Okay.
Do you understand? So it's putting a lot more energy in survival than to heal, to keep you whole, to recover, to renew self. But because it has to deal with distress all the time, it has to have packets of energy stored out for that. And so your healing process, they're denying the metabolic energy they need.
It does kind of feel like social media has become a journal for a lot of people who want to rant. And I say rant because journaling is ranting on paper, essentially. Right. Putting all your stress or your negative thoughts on paper so that it doesn't, continue to stress you out. And people are tweeting, people are posting, people are sharing a lot of things on social media.
Sometimes oversharing.
Oversharing. So obviously, pen and paper is very old school, traditional. Some people like to type their thoughts. So what are your thoughts regarding where people should journal? Should this always be kept to yourself and kept secret? Or is it okay to let these thoughts out into the world?
There's a place for community, definitely. But you see, oversharing online, you're probably not thinking unintended consequences. 20 years down the line, do you still want this information out there? Is this information going to impact someone else negatively? If you think about all that, you want to keep your ranting within a safe community, and then your safest community is within yourself. And if you talk about people wanting to type their digital journals, so I am still very old school about journaling. It's very therapeutic for me to actually write. But after some time, I find time to transfer onto a digital journal that then reminds me, I mean, the way the digital journals even work, it reminds me 5 years ago today you wrote. And sometimes I find that very therapeutic. Oh, I wrote this 5 years ago, 7 years ago I wrote this.
Wow.
So that helps me stay grounded and on track. So, but for going completely out there with everything and anything, no boundaries, no privacy, I'd say that's not safe. It can offer you immediate relief, but long term is very expensive. It can be very expensive.
Okay. Now, I have to say thank you so much for joining us now. And we're going to have a really interesting month with you on our health segment throughout the month of October. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, then. So, yes, have you ever thought of having a journal, writing things down, letting it all out? If you haven't, maybe try it out. It might be that stress relief you've been looking for. At this point, we have to move on with the show. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.